Hello, welcome back to the channel. You join me on Helmantor, which is a beautiful hilltop in Bodmin, Cornwall, but very kind of under the radar, so you're welcome for the secret little spot. Today I want to talk about my they're not the most recent. I did my solo trip, which went really well, but my two most recent trips with my boyfriend and my friends, which were hiking the Smuggler's Way and hiking in the Rhenog mountain range in Wales. So before I get into why these two trips in particular, what I might describe as a disaster, I want to kind of go over what types of fun you can have on a camping trip. So as any true adventurer knows, there are three types of fun on any one trip. So type 1 fun is just pure fun. It's like you're having a good time doing it and you're having a good time remembering about it. All round brilliant. For me, this would be my really simple camping trips, or when you go on holidays with the family, things like that. Just all round great experience, fantastic. Type 2 fun is what everyone's after, really. It's where it's quite difficult and hard at the time, but then to remember it, it's really fun and you're really glad that you've done it. So for me, this would be quite a lot of my backpacking trips. Like I did a backpacking trip through Galloway National Park, which was really good fun. I've done multiple multi-day hikes and stuff like that, like things that have been difficult, but then in hindsight, really good. And then there's type 3 fun, which is just not fun. It's not fun to do, and it's not fun to remember. And that's the category that both of these adventures slot nicely into, and I want to talk about why. So the first trip I want to talk about is hiking the Smuggler's Way, which is a coast-to-coast through Cornwall. So it starts at Low and ends in Boscastle, traditionally. That's the way that we did it anyway. It's a 36-mile hike, and we kind of assumed that we'd be totally fine to do it. Like, it would be hard, but not that hard. And that's probably one of the most critical mistakes that I think that we made on the whole thing. Because what we actually did is we parked our van up at the top in Boscastle and then got public transport down on the Friday to Low, so that then we would have the entire weekend to walk from the bottom back to the top to where we were parked. But that did also mean that we were actually stranded on the trail until we completed it, which is not something we realised until we were actually doing it. So the footage from this trip, I was going to make a whole video, to be honest. I could have made a whole thing, but I think if you actually watch my face in particular, it's just a slow descent into my sadness and just like general upset at the whole situation. Essentially, there were a bunch of things wrong with what we decided to do, like fundamentally. One was the weight of the bags. We had all of our hiking gear and camping gear in our bags for obviously the whole walk. But what we didn't appreciate was that our stuff is just too heavy. This is what I mentioned in my last video. Like, I just don't have equipment suitable for long distance hiking whatsoever. So this was the trip that made me realise that. I was just so in pain from my bag all the time, and it got to the point where it wasn't just muscular pain on my shoulders and my hips and my back. It was actual I can't even describe it. My whole body was in pain really badly, and I would get to the point where I would get up and all my muscles would have contracted in, and I wouldn't be able to stretch them out anymore. I'd have to stand there for 10 minutes before putting my bag on to be able to stretch my muscles out in order to be able to actually walk right to continue, which is just crazy. I've never experienced that before. And then secondly was we just didn't appreciate how far miles are. 36 miles doesn't sound like very much, and we had from 8 o'clock at night on the Friday to whenever we got in on the Sunday to do the entire thing, and it just didn't feel like it was going to be that big of a deal. But oh my, it took us forever, like so long. And, you know, especially you go wrong a couple of times as well, so that obviously adds a whole thing. We got not lost on the moor, we just went down the wrong footpath on the moor and we had to come back. And that was a whole thing. So I think it was the first day we walked like 8 miles, and then it was like 13 miles, and then it was like 10 miles or 9 miles or something on the last day. But it was just like, to put it in perspective, we had summited Brown Willy, which is Cornwall's biggest peak, on the Saturday night, just to keep up with our schedule, what we were planning to do. It's currently 25 past 11 at night, and we've just summited Brown Willy. So I didn't want a late one, but we've had one. So now we've got to descend and find somewhere to camp for the night. Yeah, I suppose the good points of the trip, it didn't rain, and, you know, we did manage to do it. No, we didn't get injured, nothing really went wrong, we just pushed through and we managed to get it done, which is pretty cool. But honestly, to look back on, the only thing I've got out of it is that sense of achievement that I've done it at all, because now I know how hard it was, I'm so much more like, wow, I did that. But at the same time, it's like, if I'd have known that, I would never have done it. Do you know what I mean? It's super insane. But yeah, that's probably all I've got from the whole thing, is just that it was a good experience to never do that again. And then secondly was the hiking in the Rhenog mountain range at the bottom of Snowdonia. This is a relatively unknown part of Snowdonia. It's like, these mountains are very rarely visited, and you can see why when you go there. It's like very rugged terrain. The pathways are super, like, you can hardly see them, let alone follow them. And then the mountains themselves involve a bit of scrambling, which is obviously not everyone's cup of tea. And then they're super, like, secluded. You have to drive out quite far to get to them. Like, you go down these quite tight roads to get there, which is totally up our street. Like, me and my friends went out there just a couple of weeks ago to have a camping trip, which we thought was going to be fantastic, because we could camp at the bottom of the mountains, go up the mountains, come back down, and do like a whole trip like that. We'd set aside 5 days to do it. We decided to go off trail a little bit too much, and when I say, like, the terrain was bad, I mean it was horrendous. To put it in perspective, we decided to do a hill walk on the second day, and we went not even 3 kilometers, but we were out for 6 hours. So that means we were traveling at roughly 500 meters an hour. 500 meters an hour! That is ridiculous. So essentially what it was these giant, like, grass clumps that you had to really fortify your way through. There was rocks to climb over. It was just horrendous. And then to top it all off, for 3 days it essentially rained pretty much non-stop. So we were actually hiding in our base camp for such a long time because nobody wanted to leave because the rain was that poor. And obviously you don't want to go up mountains when it's raining. So it's just like this whole ordeal. Our tarp needs setting up better. Mm-hmm. We have a leak. Yeah, it was just ridiculous. I don't think I've ever had a camping trip where I've been sitting there and I've thought to myself, like, I just want to go home. I don't even want to be here anymore. Like, I was happy to leave. I think we were all just happy when it got to the last day and we could just leave. It was so like grueling an experience. Obviously, you know, we had comforts. You had to pull it back again and be like, look, we did have comforts, we managed to get our camp set up before it started raining, which is so good. We had plenty of food, like to the point where at the end of the day, on the last day, we were trying to like pawn off food to each other so we didn't have to carry it back. It was more just the fact that we'd gone there to go into the mountains, go up the mountains and like be, you know, involved in all of that. And instead what we'd done is just decided to go and sit in the rain for 4 days. Like, that's how I felt, basically. I didn't gain any sense of achievement out of the whole trip. And that's like what I'm after normally. I want the challenge, I want the, you know, like I've done something. But there was none of that. So that was pretty upsetting. So the reasons I wanted to talk about this is just because I think it's important not only to know that, you know, not all wild camps are created equal, but also that these are like, I need to view these as learning lessons rather than reasons to never go back out into the wild ever again. Lesson 1, I need better kit. Like, let's be honest, I don't have light enough kit and I don't have waterproof enough kit, and that was so evident these last 2 trips. Like, I was struggling with the whole of the Smuggler's Way, and that was only 3 days. And, you know, I'm here looking at, I want to do the Cambrian Way, which I think is about a month. I want to do the Tour de Mont Blanc, which is like 7 to 14 days, I think. And then there's like a bunch of others, like the PCT even, eventually, you know, where you walk from Mexico to Canada, and that takes you like 5 months. Like, I'm all about that. So I need to figure out what exactly the kit is that I need to upgrade to in order to like achieve these goals that I want to achieve, because where I'm currently at is not it. I think the second thing I've learned is that I just need to have more realistic expectations of what I'm wanting in terms of my distance and my experience. I didn't hike nearly as far as I thought I was going to be able to do on the 36 miler, and you know, same with the Renogs. Maybe if I'd have looked at the weather better or planned a camp spot better, then we wouldn't have been in the situation that we ended up in. So it's all just a lesson in planning, like understanding what is realistic, and really also understanding like where my body is at, like what distancing I can do, what weight I can carry, and then trying to actually like coordinate trips around those variables so that I can have an enjoyable time and not end up throwing myself completely out of my depth, which is absolutely what happened at both of these trips. Which is really sad because obviously you only get so many trips a year, and I feel like I've almost wasted 2 of them. So that's what I've learnt anyway, and this is the advice or the lessons I'm going to be looking at going forwards into my next ventures, which I'm super excited about planning the next one. I've got quite a lot of ideas. Just as a side note, I'm actually moving from Cornwall to Wales in a few weeks' time, so I'm really excited about that change, and I'm really excited about being able to get into the Welsh mountains more and sort of see what Wales has to offer, even more so than I have done, which is super, super good. So yeah, that'll all be coming up on the channel soon. I just thought I would throw in this little quick video because I wanted to tell the story of these 2 trips, but they just didn't warrant their own video. Like, I don't want to make 2 videos about me being miserable. There's just no point in that. We move on, you know, as your granddad might say, oh, it's just character building. Alright. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.